It seems as though there is no shortage of indie horror games nowadays, all fighting for the title of the most unique or most groundbreaking entry. Not in terms of graphics or gameplay though, but rather in terms of a story that perplexes all its players to the point that it draws in a large and curious enough crowd following a breadcrumb trail that the developers themselves are laying out. Regardless of whether you're someone who has purchased these games or just followed the onslaught of theories that followed, one thing is for certain: it's fun. Questionable ethics and inevitable drama aside, it's always heartwarming to see a community come together and work to solve the story of something they're passionately connected to. Can it get out of hand? Of course. An excess of anything is dangerous. Yet, it doesn't make it all bad. Keep in mind that I'm specifically referring to the theory side of these communities. Other members, and sometimes even the game's own developers, have proven that there are many hidden truths to the reality of what these franchises were built on. In a lot of cases, the toxicity is unavoidable, but the scope of it is too large to cover in a single video. Plus, that's not what this video is about anyway. I clarify this disclaimer because there are a lot of unsaid feelings when it comes to Hello Neighbor. Some state that the team behind it lost its way as the series got popular, while others argue the red flags were ever present from the initial betas of the game. I'm not here to side with one over the other. I'm just here to present my own opinion that I honestly haven't seen discussed or brought up as much as I thought it would have been. I will be referencing some of the more unpleasant sides of Hello Neighbor's recent trajectory and attempts at branching out, but they won't be the main focus. With all that out of the way, on to why you're all here. Why do I believe that Hello Neighbor was always destined to fail from the very get-go? In simple terms, it refers back to how I started this video off. The most popular of indie games attract you with a story in need of being put together in order to be properly understood. This immerses a player like no gameplay ever could. It's a distinct feeling on its own that makes you truly feel involved with the world you're seeing, and even more so when your efforts to stitch together clues and hints come to life in the next update, release, chapter, or even installment. Think back to Five Nights at Freddy's or Bendy and the Ink Machine. What would we be really hyped for every chance we got at the sight of the story continuing? It'd be, what else will we learn of this established world? And will our past assumptions be proven to be true? It's the same for Poppy Playtime. Just look at all the hype regarding where the contorted and twisted story may be heading. The direction has always been clear with these games, and in certain cases, the story overpowers whatever mechanics may be present. These titles can't be reviewed how other AAA releases are. The core concepts and fundamental bases are completely different. This is where the problem with Hello Neighbor starts to arise. Before all the hype, theories, and mad pat videos, the core elements promoted from the very beginning was the gameplay. More specifically, the AI of the neighbor and how he could adapt to the player's path, movements, and playstyles to better combat you each time you were caught. This, paired with the originally uniquely cartoonish graphics and interesting design of the house, was what caught the eye of all players alike. See, a game like FNAF Security Breach, for example, was set up for many challenges from its announcement due to how it was the franchise's gateway into the general gaming audience. While that deserves an analysis of its own, this brief statement serves as an example of how Hello Neighbor's goals shifted throughout development. The game never intended on capitalizing on its story. Sure, it had an ambitious one being set up, but in no way was it what we ended up getting in the final game. This isn't just pure speculation. It's clear how, through the years, it all changed to adapt to a much greater narrative than originally intended. This was, of course, due to how much traction the story gained in comparison to the gameplay. Bendy and Poppy were always set on the path that FNAF went down. That is clear from the very premise of the games. Dynamic Pixels were trying to do something new and unique but got distracted by the aforementioned widespread online dissection of the story, or rather, lack thereof. They tried to shift their focus to ensuring that the story not only met expectations, but rather exceeded them. And you know what they say, when you try and please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Such was the case here. With Dynamic Pixels' attention divided between the gameplay and story, It was such that the end result was really nothing to be impressed by. An advanced AI that learns from your every move is what the official website describes a neighbor as. Last I checked, a programmed action placing traps and barricading rooms where you were last found doesn't constitute as an advanced AI. This goes without even mentioning the bugs that plague every end of the game and the glitches that allow you to surpass each act altogether. Hell, with how convoluted and baseless the puzzles became, I ended up doing so myself. There just wasn't any direction. And while this actually used to be a selling point of the game's sandbox-like design, it doesn't hold up with the final release since it can't act as a sandbox if you have no idea whatsoever on how to even go about solving these puzzles with how the majority of them don't follow the law of physics as a reference. And finally, we have to discuss what the game has come to be known for. A mess of a story in need of free promotion in order to be fulfilled. As said before, this was just a byproduct of the team trying to follow what they thought would only gain them a larger audience. While there is still a fan base around the game, it isn't thriving. You may think that is alright. It's normal. Every game has a shelf life, right? No, not when book after sequel after even a downright whole show is pumped out, yet you see no news in close to the volume there was when the game was in its prime. Dynamic Pixels has reached the point where they're trying to milk this so-called franchise for all it's worth, which isn't a lot. Not now anyways. Where other indie titles have been able to ferment themselves into at least some form of a marketable franchise, Hello Neighbor has only continued to go downhill after its official release. Some other common criticisms regarding the overall game constitute how different it seems from its older versions, how the story has diluted itself over time, and how the love poured into the original build of the game is no longer to be found. All this can, again, be traced back to the diversion of focus and the greed in capitalizing on what Dynamic Pixels thought would work, which was not what they had originally set out to achieve. In conclusion, this case study can act as an example of what not to do, not just when it comes to game design and development, but also in any hobby or passion you have. Don't let go of why you started doing what you did, and don't forget the roots of what drive you. Success follows those that follow themselves. It isn't guaranteed, but neither is a future where you abandon your own values after what you believe is stability. Nothing's ever guaranteed as a career. The only thing that is certain is how you approach what you want to achieve, and how you approach your own self along the way. This has been Vexerus, and goodbye for now.